Technically, everything is going really good, so that's excellent. And we're hoping to reach some people that are curious about how to make contact, how to see a UFO or do human-initiated contact, HICE, CE5, close encounters of the fifth kind. It comes under a whole bunch of different labels, but basically it is reaching out to whoever's communicating to us and showing us, giving us sightings of UFOs out there in the night skies. So, without any further ado, let's show you who we've got. So, we have Ashley from CE5 Academy. Hello, Ashley.
Hello, guys. So nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And Greg from JCETI. Hello, Greg.
Hi, everyone. Hey, good afternoon from Tokyo. How are you?
Good. Okay, so it looks like we've got some people online, which is awesome. Anybody that is has a question, please go ahead and feel free to ask it. It would be pretty awesome if anybody who's online wanted to throw in the comments where you're coming from. We're doing a very global live chat here because Ashley is in Mauritius and Greg is
very
in
excited to be
Tokyo. Yeah.
So covering all different sorts of
Canada.
And yes. Yes, I'm in Canada, so we had to figure out a bit of a time puzzle to figure out when would be the best time. And so for me, it's Friday, which is a little strange, and you guys are in Saturday already.
Yep, that just goes to show the illusion of space and time.
That's right. So, so before we get started, and I want to also ask you guys like what your experience is, and sort of what sort of projects you guys are working on, so that people know who you are. But before we do that, I kind of wanted to ask you guys each, why do this? Why make contact? Why make this attempt in this endeavor? Like, what is the point? What is it that sparks your inspiration? Do either of you want to start particular, or should I just pick one of you guys?
Go for it, Greg.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, my name's Greg Sullivan. Thank you. My name is Greg Sullivan, and I've been living in Japan here for about 15 years in total. And in 2010, we started a project called JCETI, and as you well know, Fukushima, the 3/11 disaster here was a sort of a catalyst for so many light workers and new projects and everything. So what I found was that our initiative was sort of in line with that domestically, but also coming into this whole, ascension wave. And I quickly found that even our contact work and the amazing results we were getting was a part of this total this 2012 and beyond timeline, and coming up into 2020 this year, and so it's a global evolution, and I find that an ascension without ET contact is sort of it's sort of having peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the jelly, you know what I mean? So it's sort of like the two go together hand in hand. So I've had an interest in the topic for a long time, and it was really a lot of it's been a roller coaster over the last 10 years, but to see the transformation that this work offers to other people is I experienced it first myself, and then was quickly able to share it with others. So it's been the transformative power of contact is for me the biggest inspiration.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is amazing, isn't it, to see how people do change and kind of evolve and grow and open up to all kinds of things, including their own like personal growth.
Yes,
that's very, very, very true and very beautiful, Greg. I'll definitely follow up on what you said. Me too. I think that ET contact, the primordial thing that it did for me is really open up my own understanding of my own spirituality and my own spirit and my own essence as a being, and how to really harness that every day to be the best me I can. It's really been the most amazing journey. And for me, it started back in 2011. And I think that after discovering a few online videos about ascension and about enlightenment and obviously about UFOs and ETs, I got very interested in the subject. Somehow something inside of me called out and called me to do further research into the subject. I then discovered Dr. Greer and the C5 initiative, which I fell in love with immediately. And that day, I actually went to buy a little laser at the mall nearby, and had my very first contact experiences that evening, which was really surprising because I didn't expect it at all. Obviously, I thought that I must practice more, or I need to do more things to be able to even reach out to our star brothers and sisters. But somehow the energies aligned, and I definitely had an amazing experience and a beautiful sighting, which eventually I got quite afraid of because it was so new to me. I just didn't know just what would happen. So all of these fearful thoughts came to mind. And eventually, after a few months and years of practice, I just learned to relax and learn to trust the experience. And it's just been the most amazing, fascinating, and great journey that I've had in my life so far. So I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, you really speak to that kind of like that spark that kind of gets you moving, and that excitement that draws you in that direction and brings you along, which is really exciting.
That's great. You had
Go ahead.
laser. The day you got your laser was the catalyst for first contact. That's beautiful.
It was.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'm sure that there are some viewers out there that might have that that excitement and inspiration and real kind of like draw towards this and don't know what to do. There's a global contact night tomorrow. Well, actually, your guys is on your side of the world. It's your night, and on my side of the world it will be tomorrow. But that's a really wonderful time that you can go out. If this is your first time and you want to go check this out, see if you can make contact and possibly maybe see some kind of undeniable proof that we're not alone, then you could head out tomorrow or tonight, and you could go alone or you could go with a group of people. So if there's anybody that has a question, feel free to throw it in the comment box. I can't see anything in there yet. Hopefully that's not a technical thing, but yes.
I've got a little question.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Greg just how, I mean, I've been following Greg for a while. I really enjoy his work, and especially the work that you do, Greg, with all of your Japanese community. How did you go about starting to create C5 groups or contact groups and leading that? How did that come about for you?
Oh yeah, well, thanks so much. Yeah, we've been really kind of isolated. It takes all of my effort to do what we do in Japanese full time. So I really have had very limited time to release stuff in English, which is going to be hopefully change this year. But yeah, it was really a roller coaster. And like I said, the first this was obviously, it involves a lot of soul contract and kind of like things that couldn't have been, that were things that were obviously orchestrated from either before I was born or from a higher dimensional perspective. But basically the first, like I said, the first major point was that once 3/11, the Fukushima earthquake hit, I realized that our role to play in Japan was very important and tied into that process. And actually, Japan has a very active spiritual and New Age community. And they also have a very active publishing industry. So while there's a lot of this kind of information online in the English-speaking world and Europe and elsewhere, I'm sure in your area too, there's we were lucky enough to get hooked up with some publishers, and so people who took part in our early events introduced me to a magazine who has supported us throughout this whole time. It was one of the only monthly spiritual magazines here. And then also my first book came out. It was a discussion book. Someone I interviewed for a kind of different video-based project proposed that we do a book together. So just when 3/11, the Fukushima disaster hit, was just as we were finishing that project. So everything sort of snowballed from there, and it became it just became a mix of our events. Like I knew I wanted to do a contact in a certain place, like the Japan Alps, or there's so many amazing locations here. And then also at the same time, once you have a book out here, oftentimes lecturers and teachers will be called to different cities as a guest. So I was then invited to many different places in the beginning. So yeah, and the first few years were much of my soul family, because I have several what you might call past life connections to Japan. So the people we were meeting are very close associates and almost like family type of figures in my life. So yeah, it's been a great journey.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I want just I'll just say one other thing is that I really appreciate what Celia has done with the manual, and I think it's going to be more important that, of course, the content app has been a great tool for everyone, but I love the phrase CE5 Academy. That's a great term, and that is foreshadowing what needs to come out in the future, is like new forums, and I would love to I'm hoping to put together some videos that will be helpful for community organizers and things like that, because we've definitely experienced many different starting groups from zero here in Japan.
Yeah, Greg, did you want to go into a little bit about how, like, what sort of like mediums that you use? Like, you say that you have videos, right? And then do you have trainings? Do you have people come for trainings, or how do you do your C5s over there?
That's a good question. I was going to say, on the flip side, the Japanese are very astute students, and what we might call it is I localized C5 here. So that means it bringing to a country that's especially non-English speaking, so on the flip side, we've been deferred to kind of take care of most of the events and stuff here. I mean, of course, people are doing it on their own a little bit. We have our own app out now in Japanese, and so our training materials are kind of growing. But up until now, we've done just a ton of one-night events, and I call them contact events, not trainings. So. It's just a way people to dip their feet in the pool, so to speak. And then also, once Sirius came out, we have a Japanese version of Sirius, and JCETI's Contact has begun, and also most recently Unacknowledged. So a lot of the results we had were not even just on an overnight. We had a screening, and then a small short 2 or 3 hour CE5 afterwards. But you would be amazed what kind of experiences happened in such a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I can imagine.
Actually,
that's amazing.
Would you like to share with us what you've been doing with the C5 Academy?
Yes, so CE5 Academy was born just out of my just really wanting to share this incredible reality with my community and my friends. And it started, I think, in 2012 or 2013. And I just started doing a few videos on the subject. And then one day I just felt like I wanted to do more. And so I just literally, in that moment, the next 5 minutes, I didn't prepare anything. I just put a camera on the table and I just shot a video, which I entitled 4 Easy Ways to Make C5 Contact. And since then, this video has been viewed a few thousand times, which is really great. Awesome. And that has inspired me to continue to make a few different videos around CE5 and how to increase and enhance our C5 experiences, either individually or in a group as a collective. That also led me to then do one-night contact events or 2 or 3 night contact events like Greg in the mountains around in Cape Town, because that's where I started my journey. And I've had a few different contact events with around 10 to 15 different people, and all of them have always been very successful. And I agree with Greg. I mean, it's surprising to see what happens even in the space of an hour. It really is incredible. And so I just really felt passionate to take this to a more diverse crowd. And I thought that a YouTube channel and a title like C5 Academy could do it a few years back. And I'm very happy that it did, as I really want to continue this journey into more of a physical contact center, as we were speaking about, Celia, in the coming years in Mauritius. So I think that it would be a great platform for individuals around the world that really want to deepen their experiences and learn more about this, to come down and have a few days, a few nights with us here in Mauritius as part of a training program.
Oh. That'll be awesome, yeah.
Mauritius, so for those of us, exactly where I was going, Greg, was Mauritius, for those of us that don't know, is where?
It's in the Indian Ocean. It's in between well, I wouldn't say in between Madagascar and Australia, but if you had to look at it on a map, it would probably be. But it's closer to Madagascar side, and there's a few other islands around, like Reunion Islands or Maldives or Seychelles, all really beautiful islands, and it has such a rich history as well, which I would really love to share with the individuals that also come and partake in those events. Eventually, I really do look forward to a future where there are those centers in Japan and in Canada and America and Europe and Australia, in Africa, and really all around the world as we continue to move towards a world that's opening up towards contact. And as we set up these energy centers to really do the beautiful work that we love doing.
That's one of the benefits of being part of the community is all the different places that you can go. I know I've been to New Zealand, California, and even just traveling to the West Coast in Canada here. If I ever go around, I just kind of check out like who's on the ET network, the etcontactnetwork.com, right? I just say, hey, who's in the area? What's happening? Are there any C5s, or do you want to just meet up and hang out and chat? Because it's certainly nice to be able to talk to other people who have had these types of experiences and can kind of understand and relate.
Yeah, we're only getting such a small sliver of each other's worlds online. It's really interacting personally is the real treasure. I agree.
Yeah, you find a lot of really cool people.
So true.
In this type of work. So so for people that are interested in maybe heading out tonight or tomorrow, if you had like a little instruction, some advice, or some I don't know why I can't speak right now, but basically if you had any advice for somebody who is going out, what would you tell them to do? Greg, did you want to go ahead?
Oh, sure. Well, I think definitely the location. I had when you were mentioning the app. Actually, my family lives in the northeast of the U.S., and so I usually go home once a year. And one time, I think it was around 2012, I ended up meeting a couple that was on the early JCETI app, I believe, the networking app, and I noticed that their location was sort of sort of a stumbling block for them because they didn't have wide open skies or it wasn't isolated enough. So I think that spending a little bit of time to try and take a look at your what spot you might use ahead of time is one initial step. Of course, where checking if there are any lights in the area. What kind of traffic is coming in and out. We're very lucky in Japan that we can go anywhere. There's no real trespassing laws. There's no police around at night. It's so nice. Thank goodness. But I know that. How about down south there, Ashley?
Yeah, down south in this side of the world, the locations are also. I mean, you would be trespassing. I don't think it's like Japan, but I'm sure there are a few areas that are open to the public and really beautiful and really conducive in terms of the energy. And for me, that's really what I'd like to share with anyone that wants to go out and attempt C5 this evening, whether you've done it before or this is your first time. I like to think of things in terms of energy. And for me, when I make contact, a really important thing is to do my best to have a high energy or a high frequency, as I like to say. And how that can be done is just to take the day to eat light foods, for example, to meditate, and especially to set some intentions for your evening, whatever those intentions may be, personal intentions and group intentions, whether you're with other individuals or just by yourself. And really, the idea of connecting to yourself will enhance the connection to our brothers and sisters out there.
Yes, absolutely. That is a prerequisite, isn't it, of contact work, is that if you're having a miserable day and you're in a bad mood or you're feeling resentment or anger or whatever, and you go out and try to have a sighting, chances are very good that it's not going to happen. Coming into that high frequency mode is what is necessary.
Yeah, and I generally also like to think about it as in terms of how we live our lives. I think that it's all well and good to have a very high frequency the day that you're doing C5, but I think it's even better to do your best to have a high frequency every day so that you can build on that momentum and that energy. And so what I like to share on C5 Academy is that to really enhance our contact experiences, again, whether we're individuals or in groups, It's to really do our best to embody that truth and embody that state of mind and that state of being every day as best as we can, as this will naturally increase our momentum and our energy. And I believe that everything in this universe, every object, every being is resonating at a particular frequency, and that when we initiate contact, we actually are raising our frequency as our brothers and sisters from the star, our galactic family, are lowering their frequency so that we can meet halfway and have the experience. So they will always be willing to lower their frequency to meet us halfway, and as long as we raise our frequency to meet them at that level too. And again, it's not to say that high frequencies are good and low frequencies are bad. It's just a matter of experience and what we've chosen to experience. And I would say it probably would go down into quantum physics as well. But really raising our frequency as best as we can. So finding ways to do that is individually is a great way to.
Yeah, how would you do that individually, like you guys in a group? If you had a group out there, if you were out by yourself, what sort? Did you have like a exercise or like a technique or something that you just always do for yourself?
I think that it definitely depends on individuals and whatever works for individuals. But a very general thing that would work for everybody is, for example, the meditation that Dr. Greer offers, or any other meditation that works for you, but really quieting the mind and coming down and centering yourself into the present moment and staying there as best as you can, to me, is one of the most powerful ways to do so. If we let the mind run rampant, or like you said, if we have fears or angers or resentment, we're really clogging that frequency, and it's like a beacon that we're shining out. We're kind of putting our hands in front of the beacon so they can't see us. But if we're open and we have that intention, and the beacon is shining strong, and they can then have the ability to respond in that way and have the interaction.
Yeah. How about you, Greg? Is there a particular thing that you do when you're out that you use?
Beautiful. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'll just pick up where I was saying is like with the location too, as clear. We often think about clearing the field too. So if you spend the time to, do a little blessing before you start, or give thanks to the land and stuff. There are many other beings that support the work in the field before the craft get there. Like the nature spirits and the spirits of the area. Much of the land here in Japan, as you might imagine, is recycled. So I became very aware of the ancestral spirits and also clearing out lower formed energies. Because if there are blocks in a place, it makes it hard for the craft to come in at times, or it makes it hard for the group to get on the same page energetically. Yeah, so I agree so much that with Ashley that it's a shortcut. The resonance factors. It's all about frequency and getting tuned to the same channel. But in the beginning, I'm originally a sound engineer, so before we had the CTS meditation in Japanese, I was inspired to use the solfeggio frequencies. So I would walk around the group with a speaker, and we use the solfeggio. It becomes almost like shamanism. It's just the role of the shaman is to get everyone resonating and just get the energy flowing. So whether it's a crystal bowl, a singing ring, chanting. We would also chant, and we would do toning with the solfeggio as well in the early days. And also, we also do a Reiki pose where, the group kind of cuts their hands on top of each other like this, and with a few centimeters of distance, and that helps the energy move around in a circle, like a vortex, opening a vortex.
Neato. Can you explain what the solfeggio tones are?
Oh, yeah, sure. The tuning scale of Western music right now is 440, A, 440, symphonic A, and the original one, I believe, was 444. So it's the biggest one is 528 is the resonance of the heart chakra. Okay. So it's basically the ancient scale, one of the kind of like the scale of music in frequency that is actually more harmonious with the human body and the human energetic system. So it seems like that's music tuned to that. It produces less stress and has more of a therapeutic effect. So right. A lot of healing instruments these days are tuned to the solfeggio.
Wow, wonderful. That's a great.
That's amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's something that if somebody doesn't feel like they are very adept at even an awareness of their own frequency or how to raise their frequency from, say, feeling negative to neutral to feeling happy, which is this emotional regulation is a skill that you really learn. You could go and find those tones
Mm-hmm.
and help the sound of that music help to harmonize yourself. So, yeah, wonderful.
Have you guys used them before?
So true.
No, haven't.
We've actually in a few of our sessions we've had a friend who's a singing bowl practitioner, and she's done a few singing bowl sessions with us, where we would all be lying around, and she would obviously do the bowl and bang the bowl next to each of our bodies to tune the frequencies. But other than that, also something else that we found that has worked is yoga. My wife is a yoga teacher, and one day we were out, just myself and her, and we both did a little bit of yoga and some meditation. We really felt the energy raise through stretching our bodies and letting go of stagnant energy, and moving the energy around really helped. And I mean, the experience we've had after that was really profound.
Oh, that's interesting.
We found that also works.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I've been hearing recently just about how moving your body is so important just for the human form in general, and how, that can raise your frequency. Very cool. Nice synchronicity.
Mind, body, and spirit. Sure.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
You know what's neat about what you were talking about, Greg, about like the ancestors and like the land spirits and that sort of thing. I think that for some people just joining this idea or interested in ETs or interested in UFOs might be like, oh my gosh, like what is this opening the doorway to? But it's really like it really is like a portal. You open this door and then all of a sudden it's like the world is magic, and all of this stuff really is out there and is kind of communicating back with us. In our group, we finally kind of got to like a acknowledgement to the ancestors several years after we started, and we had some really interesting results after doing that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's amazing.
I was going to say, just sorry to go back to the other point, was that if people don't have any particular chimes or these solfeggio CDs, just playing ambient music can be very, really go a long way. Like if you have just sort of some background music, like Brian Eno or some sort of ambient soundtrack on, there's a ton of stuff on YouTube these days. But yeah, that also goes for the, I've seen people who, like you said, weren't ready for the ET experience, but one sightings occurred when they were thinking of their loved ones, or someone realized that, oh, today is the day my mother passed, and then suddenly there's a craft they're seeing, so that conversation can go many different places. But yeah, it's the ancestors are a bridge to the worlds of the unseen.
Mm-hmm. Everything is really so interesting.
That's beautiful. I wanted to. Could I ask you both a question?
Yes.
I often get this feedback on our channel, and it's a very valid one, and one that I've tried to address in many different ways, and I'm sure we'll continue to address. But a lot of times, a lot of people, for example, we were just speaking about ancestors and opening the doorways. A lot of people will generally have the notion that some ETs are bad, quote unquote, and may do us harm when we are doing those practices. So I wanted to ask you guys your perspective on bad ETs, or how to potentially mitigate the effects or the idea of encountering bad ETs.
Yeah, this is such a topical.
If there is even such a thing.
Question. Absolutely. Greg, did you want to go ahead with your perspective?
That's perfect. Yeah, that's actually what I was kind of not quite saying directly about the land clearing, is that in my experience, my first run-in with the actual sort of lower astral energy, you might call it, that people may often construe with a negative ET experience was very real. And so as I would experience a gamut of very, very clear and high vibrational locations, and then other ones that were not so. And I found out later that because of the lack of open skies at times, we would use dams here and there across the rural Japan. And it turns out that dams, where they were built, are often the location of a village that became a ghost town, or not the greatest, like kind of lost cities, lost towns. So there's a lot of stuck energy there potentially. Yeah, so having to become aware of that was by necessity for me. The other thing about it is that for people who are going out in the field, I would say that for sure the the flow of the events starts way before you're actually even on the way to the field. So you're in a force field of protection, and there is absolutely zero risk of a quote unquote negative experience. That's anything but some sort of lower astral energy. So I think it's the protection we accessed in our pure intentions is really, really powerful. So there's nothing to worry about in that front, in my mind.
Yeah, that is such a good question, and it's something that people really come up to right away, right? Humans are naturally skeptical, naturally fearful, and for good reason. Humans have treated each other very badly over however tens of thousands of years we've been around, right? And so we're kind of like naturally keyed to be looking for a threat, which is good for us, right? Like we do need to, I think, always keep that in mind. And it's a good question to ask in this arena, right? So are there bad ETs? Do we need to worry about it? So, and just kind of going back to Greg, you talking about like the ancestors and land spirits, and how when you kind of open this doorway to all of these different phenomena or multidimensional beings, who knows what the array of these entities could be and what their intentions or desires or whatever are. I think that this kind of can open the door to that, and so just to be very cautious about your intentions, what you're going in with. Like you say, when you get together as a group, I think your ability to raise your frequency and manifest what you're intending grows exponentially. So I think that is a very powerful, maybe kind of a safety net, if that's the way you might like to think of it. That it's it's a really nice way to clear the energy of the area that you're in. And what else was I going to say on this topic? Yeah, basically that to create a very strong intention that I am open to communication with 100% pure light, whether that be ETs, multidimensional beings, extra dimensional beings, whatever is out there. Yeah, Ashley, what
we often use James's healing unseen negative influences prayer. That's a great shortcut, and yeah, I think focusing on the global transformation, the actual larger goal is an element that the lower astral can't access. So I find that it becomes a positive feedback loop. The more you get the feedback from the ships and the beings that are actually making themselves visible, it comes along with that energetic. So it's like a guiding light. It's a guiding frequency tone, that you get used to very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And I would advise anybody that is not feeling very well, either you're feeling very depressed or unwell physically, or just going through a very stressful time, maybe it's not the time to go out and make contact. Just in case, right? Like you don't want to open any doors to something that you do not want welcome with you. And I've never heard any negative experiences with people in a intentional CE5 circle. But I did hear about one person who was not doing very well and just going through major life kind of like disaster, and then attracted something in that was not entirely positive, not entirely negative either, but that's not the C5 experience or the human initiated contact experience. It is like uplifting and beautiful and just full of love and so exciting. So yeah, I guess I would just like take care of yourself before going out.
The other caveat on the flip side of that is that the taking on this energy it makes you it's going to attract that kind of transformation on a very deep level. So that in itself is a whole experience. So just to be that you could use your own gas pedal when you're ready to do more. Press the gas when you want to slow down. Take a break. Press the brakes.
Yeah. I just want to add,
so true.
Pete Chan has added a comment here, which I think is really appropriate. So yes, negative humans, ghost energies, I always give them love and say, I have a date with ET next time, my ghost friends.
Hi, Pete.
Yeah, and he goes on to say, even if they are ghosts, we have no fear. They feed on your fear. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's beautiful responses from both of you, and it definitely speaks to also what I believe in. and how I like to see things. And like I said, I like to see things in terms of energy and frequency, and positive energy and negative energy. And for me, it is pretty obvious that if you are in a high frequency and a high energy state, it's close to impossible to attract a lower energy entity to interact with you in that moment, unless, like you said, Celia or Greg, whether you're feeling depressed or if your energy is quite low and you do aim to open other dimensional gateways, then just be ready to experience the experiences that you're going through, because we attract the same energy that we are in all moments. And so I think that if we are vibrating on a high frequency and we're going into C5 with that intention, which 99.999% of the time we are, because C5 is a very expansive and uplifting and beautiful and synchronistic experience, it's close to impossible to actually attract those negative entities that may be out to do you harm, so to speak, or as people may think. And again, like Pete Chan just said, those negative entities themselves are part of creation, and they're part of all that is. And essentially, I love them, and I think that that's what they need, is love, because the reason why they are where they are is maybe through a lack of unconditional love, which to me is the basis of all creation. So I think that for those individuals that may be fearing to go out there and do CE5, and they may fear to encounter negative entities, first of all, I would say just check your definitions and see how you believe, what you believe about these things, and definitely do a clearing of the land, like Greg said, and any tools and techniques that work for you to raise your frequency, I think is very beneficial.
Yes, absolutely. And Greg, you know very well James's clearing, right? Which speaks to what Ashley is saying about giving love to the entity, giving this whatever negative energy fragment, whatever it is, sending it love and allowing it to pass on beyond our realm.
Yes. Yeah, we also help each other with that, because I can give a couple examples where one of the people in the circle had a lot of fear, just out of, or they were just not of the work itself, but just in general. They were in a they were carrying a lot of that energy, and then sensitive people, when we put our hands together like that, we're becoming one. So we actually lift that off of them. We become like a sponge at times. So some people can, when you do it enough, it becomes no problem. But I've had other, that can, that's to be something to be aware of, that we all, it's sort of like we're all on the same page energetically, but everyone has their own part to play and taking responsibility for what they're carrying and everything. So it is a spiritual journey. You quickly become aware that it's a whole spiritual transformation that contact ties into.
Yeah, it can be really surprising like that, right? Like I used to be really into science fiction, and I love the ideas of, ETs and all of these different like federation of, different races of beings out there. And then it just quickly moved right into like my personal development and my spiritual ascension and just all of these different things that connect my connection to my higher self and this whole other world. Yeah, it was quite surprising.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody out there that wants to ask a question, please feel free to add it to the comments and we will answer it. In the meantime, is there a question that you guys had when you began this long ago? So that was quite a while ago for both of you guys, right? Can you actually think back to that time? Like what was something that you were curious about this movement, or that you had a question that you needed answered back then? Ashley, did you have one come to mind immediately, or?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I've had many questions, but eventually, like you said, through my own spiritual development, those questions, I was satisfied with the answers that I came about. But I do remember at the very beginning, I was I didn't know much about it. And so I'm going back to my first night. I had my first contact experiences after buying my first laser. And the reason why I got scared that night is because I looked at the lights that were playing with me and my laser. I mean, cutting a long story short, and a thought came to mind, which was, what if they just come and land on my roof? And immediately I felt I'm not ready for that. This is going beyond what I've agreed in this moment, and I'm just not ready for that. And so what I did, I just put my laser down and looked away and said, thank you, that is enough for tonight. Okay. And 10 seconds later looked back and they were gone. They respected that choice. And so what I've learned after practicing this more and more is that they will never go further than what we are ready for, and they will always respect where we're at and always respond accordingly. So that was something that I was wondering about at first that got answered
Yes,
as well.
yes, absolutely. That's a good one. And that's a wonderful confirmation of the respect and the love that is shown and
Yeah,
demonstrated. Yeah.
yeah.
We do have a question. Greg, did you have anything that came up that you remembered from the past, from long ago?
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, it's almost like I think I went through stages where there was like a burning question. I always had a burning question or two that I was working on, like sucking on a candy or a gobstopper, like a hard candy, and it's like your personal. That's the limit of your understanding, and working on that. Eventually, you have a breakthrough. So it's like a series of breakthroughs. I think in the beginning, I was having a lot of sightings, and I was having a lot of I could intend sightings, and I was really having that happen easily and more easily. But I definitely was very doubtful of the telepathic element. I was very skeptical of channeling and stuff. So I was very strict on myself. I never would, even when messages would come in, I was really good at reading synchronicities, but I took a long time to get up the gumption to actually tell a group that they're saying this, or if it was something related to the work itself, that was I would say it. But sometimes if it was anything further than that, that was a slow and very natural process. But nowadays when that happens, I look back and think, geez, I would be downing myself right now if I was in this circle 10 years ago.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Because
I can totally relate to that.
Can you? Yeah. Did you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, sorry, go for it. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say.
Yeah, I just said I can totally relate to what you just said.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because there is quite a lot of like ambiguity and grayness, and as you go along in this, that you have to kind of take on faith a whole bunch of stuff, and then it's just like spiked with these incredible, undeniable, multiple witness sightings and experiences, or these little puzzle pieces of synchronicities that are just like so mind blowing that like different people are bringing together as one. And so yeah, there's a lot of questioning, and I find that I'm still skeptical, and I'm still questioning, and I'm still like, oh, what is this? Do I believe in this? Do I believe in reincarnation? Do I believe in channeling? Like, am I just talking to my higher self? But I'm still exploring it, and I think that open-mindedness is kind of a prerequisite to just playing in this field.
I've seen people, a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, who on my very first contact night at Mount Adams in 2007, I was staying at his house. He's the other Greg. And through the years, he's seen me go through this whole process. And most recently, we watched like probably 100+ ships from his backyard in Portland, Oregon, on a trip to JCETI, before the trip or right after it. And he continually still doubts. Like he's doing contact on his own. Like I'll lend him a laser, and it's just it's so prevalent up there in the Northwest as well, that he has all these sightings and he's doing contact, but it's always with this, like he has this wall. It's interesting, the personal. It is up to us to go over those hurdles ourselves.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny.
For sure. And what's great about it is that you can still have that wall as long as you are also open. Pete just says, I only mention tangible things to family and friends so they can digest these experiences. Yeah, you may as well not put yourself in the line of fire if you've got a lot of really like kind of.
I used to put myself in a line of a big fire, actually.
Did you?
Really say? Yeah. I mean, when I just started that, because it was so. Think about it. This is humongous. This is enormous in terms of a realization and in terms of reality compared to our daily experiences. And all I wanted to do was share this with anybody that I came across with, in terms of friends and family. And I just look back now and I think, wow, I wonder if I had taken Pete's advice, what would? But I don't regret it, and I'm very grateful. I've obviously had a few friends that definitely thought I was going completely nuts, and that's okay. I totally understand and can totally relate to that. But essentially, I definitely learned to take into practice what Peter said and to really only speak to the tangible aspect of it and be open. You know, I used to have this feeling that they need to buy into what I'm saying. And the more I learn to relax that and the more I learn to just share, and whether they want to listen or whether they listen, take it on or not, it's none of my business, really. It's really their lives. And there was no prerequisite for them to believe me in any way, shape, or form. And since I've been doing that, I mean, a lot of friends that back then I would say would never even consider doing this. You know, it's very materialistic world in their view. I mean, they came out with me to do a few CE5s, and we've had many great experiences. And to this day, they're still scratching their head as to what that was.
Yes.
So I think that I definitely can totally see what Peter's spoken about.
Yes, and James has just said, haha, or you can always show them, which is exactly what you're saying. And it's funny about that paradox that once you let go of the need to be correct or to bring someone dragging, kicking and screaming into your reality, then they're kind of like, oh, that's really interesting. What about that? So we have a question.
I just had.
Go ahead.
That ties into something I was writing some notes yesterday, and I got that piece. I agree completely, Ashley, and I'd like to share that in the beginning of my journey is that I turned off a lot of friends and family, unfortunately, because of the conspiracy theory element. So I had the contact with without really I didn't have the spiritual element in the forefront, and I wasn't relaxed about it. So me being a New Yorker, I was pretty pushy at the time, and you know, the energetic of that is very stressful. So
it is.
And I was telling friends, you know, they really believe what I'm saying, but at the same time as I'm telling them that there's this real ET content element, they're also getting the you know, the Illuminati and all this conspiracy stuff at the same time, 9/11, and so it's sort of like they don't know the negative stuff outweighs the positive in that regard. So I kind of blew a lot of conversations in the early days that way.
Yeah.
I can totally relate to that. I think that the conspiracy idea of all of that is such a big topic, and I definitely relate to that, Greg. I also was very much into this and learned to really bring that spiritual essence to the forefront, as you say. And naturally, everything that just didn't fit with that, I just let go naturally and just refined the energy, I would say.
Yep. There does seem to be a bit of a conspiratorial element in terms of like, why is this not disclosed already? Like, why is this hidden? But aside from that, you can really go ahead and just move fully into the spiritual realm and just enjoy the contact experience without worrying too much about the Illuminati, what's going on there. So I have a question from Mark, who says, how do you go about sharing the idea and personal excitement of C5 to friends or family without getting alienated, no pun intended, or being labeled crazy? So that's funny because we were just talking about that basically, right? Like that tension between somebody who does not buy what you're selling at all. And in part we answered, right, because we were talking about how to just let go of, and to show them and to let go of
I think
meeting.
If I may jump in there, I think how I've been doing it recently is I think that the word CE5 is such a great introduction. I mean, we know that there are many other words. There's HICE or many other different terms to describe this experience that we all have. But the word C5, when you tell them, oh, have you heard about C5? And they're like, CE5, what is that? And then you say, well, C5 is a contact experience of the fifth kind. And then you explain, what I generally do is I explain in scientific terms just about Allen Hynek having developed CE1, CE2, CE3, and CE4 about UFOs. And, you know, everyone has a vague idea of UFOs. And most individuals, I mean, it's still so much in the gray that they haven't really decided whether it's real or not, or maybe they've just heard that it's not real, therefore they don't look at it. But when they hear about the word UFO, they'll be open to hearing what you have to say with a grain of salt, of course. So when you say CE5, and especially when there's a description of CE5, I think it's a very scientific and a very straightforward description. It could pique their interest, and then all you have to say is, would you like to try? You just have to be open and curious. And if the opportunity arises to then go out in the field with these individuals, then there's more opportunity to speak about CE5 and open up that energy to them and to show them, like Greg said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
absolutely.
yeah.
That whole C5 route with Dr. Greer really is kind of a science-based methodology, or like knowledge seeking, which really appeals to a certain segment of the population, which is great because there are people that really
Yeah.
they just really need the evidence, or they just need to look at it through a certain lens, and so
Mm.
there it is. It's just perfect just for them. Uh,
Yeah, the work changing the keywords is so important. So we often advise people who are putting together a screening of one of the films in a rural area, especially, like, just don't say UFO. That's the best. That's your best advice. Just
yes,
it could be anything. No problem.
it is
Free
interesting,
energy,
isn't it?
space science,
Yeah, it's
science consciousness, any other keyword you can attach to it.
it's all about the vocabulary. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and
That's
open.
why in the recent, I think that's why in the recent world with To the Stars Academy and Tom DeLonge and Missy Elizondo, that's why I think they're all using the word UAP instead of UFOs.
Yeah. Oh,
Which is
yeah,
very
that's
interesting
right.
to change the conversation, because there's such a big connotation around the word UFO for the last few decades that I think it's just a matter of terminology. But really what we're trying to get to is the same thing, I think.
Yep. And I'm curious about the evolution of say the term CE5 or HICE or human initiated contact. Like,
Yeah.
is that going to go somewhere else or transition into something else? I wonder.
What's
I think
CE5 in
that
Japanese?
C5 in Japanese. I wish I spoke Japanese.
I'm just saying that's very, very hard to brand. Let's put it that way. No, but
Is it? Okay.
yeah.
I think if we look at the history of all of the terminologies, CE1, CE2, CE3, and CE4, I think CE3, Dr. J. Allen Hynek invented CE1, CE2, and CE3, and that has, I think it was developed in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken. So those terms have been around for a long time. And I would guess that the term CE5 and CE4 essentially would also probably hang around for quite a while. Yeah.
It's
Just a
becoming
personal
ubiquitous,
thought.
really, right? Like it started with Dr. Greer, and then basically the whole world is using it, and then now along with HICE. I've heard someone use HIC, just HIC, and then also HICE, so I'm not sure. Sometimes I just like to shorten it and just say contact, just because it's easy. Don says,
Yeah.
Don says, I tend to
We've
let.
been using. I have a lot of interaction with the kind of new age, quote unquote, spiritual community here. So like I said, I've run into a wall. A lot of those type of people aren't. The scientific element is actually can be a detriment. So they're not mentally based. They're more emotionally based. So it's like I just say spiritual contact.
Oh, there you go.
Spiritual
Oh,
contact.
beautiful.
I love it.
CE5 is like this long kanji. Daigo Shuseki Sogu. They're like, what?
Yeah.
What?
It's amazing to see the difference between the West and the East. It's incredible.
Isn't that cool?
Yes.
Wild. Don says, in regards to Mark's question, I tend to let things slip out by accident now and again. I get funny looks sometimes, but I figure I'm planting seeds that may grow. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny.
Yeah.
I used to be really kind of like hidden and keep my secret passion like away from the public eye or like my friends and family. And finally I just came to a point where I was just like, who cares? And I would go to work and people would be like, what'd you do on the weekend? Oh, I went out with a group of friends and we saw tons of UFOs. We asked to see them. It was awesome. And yeah, exactly
Wow.
like Don said. Like sometimes we'll be like, what? But
That's a great way to say
Sometimes
it.
the ETs will just jump in, and that reminds me. I just remembered had a flash of an experience when I was home in Florida, and my cousin who lives there is quite a talker, and he's a deadhead. He grew up touring with the Grateful Dead and hippie, and he's been into Von Daniken for years, but I don't think he ever really had a sighting. And then literally he was blathering on and on and on, dominating the conversation, and all of a sudden his kind of mouth open, and I felt this energy come over the whole area. We were sitting by this pool, and I could see it, and he could see it, but my parents had their back to it, and it was like over this roof line, and we had to craft out for about a minute. And I was like, I just looked at him and said, "Do you see?" And he got it. Yeah. So they definitely will be very direct when it's necessary.
isn't that
When the
awesome?
time's right.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. Brian says that he today saw two children in the house and saw a square and silver black box flash on the floor. Wow. Brian sees
Mm.
Brian sees a lot of awesome stuff. Brian, you got your psychic site or your whatever spiritual site or whatever just like so fully developed. Brian can see all the things that are happening, which are probably happening all around us now that I can't see.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I have a question for both of you guys. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Regarding new forums, and I know, Celia, you've put together like a site where all the groups can gather. How do you feel? What do you feel about like the Facebook groups versus how do you guys interact with Facebook groups versus like these other new platforms that are coming out in the future?
Ashley, do you want to?
I have a very quick answer to that. For me, Facebook, I have a Facebook group, C5 Academy. However, I've never really made use of it in the way that maybe I would need to make use of it. I've mostly been more attracted to making videos on YouTube to just have that direct experiences in a way. So I've never really used Facebook groups, maybe my Facebook page just to share a few links here and there. But I think I would say I'd prefer to interact live like this with other individuals.
That's great.
I definitely do see the value in Facebook groups. I mean, that's really, it's an amazing tool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that there's probably a forum for this on pretty much in every platform that exists, right? Like I know there's one on Discord. I'm pretty sure there's one on Reddit, Facebook, Instagram's got some folks on there. So it seems to be everywhere. I guess like whatever floats your boat, whatever type of social media that you like to use, you can connect with other people wherever you go. What do you think, Greg?
I asked that just because two things for me is I've had a tough time. We have a large mailing list here, so I've had a lot of people in our group for a long time, but I've been stagnating because I've basically one of the two blocks for me with our JCETI group is that one, the language. I haven't been able to really balance well enough the English posts versus Japanese posts. They normally are mostly Japanese, and then also for me with the especially I asked that with the videos, like the stuff I want to share. Some of our best stuff is the videos we've taken, but I don't feel like I feel like that it's sort of too. I don't want to. It's a sacred thing, and I wouldn't want to be too casual about. I've heard that from other people, including Jeremy in New Zealand, and I have spoken about that. Like it's just like for me there's a boundary line that I'm still not comfortable yet. Like trying to try like a live stream of contact or something and have actually things happen and have that openly critiqued is sort of like maybe I'm not quite there yet, but it seems like for me that my guidance has been sort of not to do that right now up until now. So now the film coming out, the CE5 film, is a great chance. I think we're going to have some stuff in there, but so that's a great way that everyone has pooled their stuff together and it has the correct explanation. Like I guess in the end, I wouldn't want to have the time it takes to explain everything is so great that I don't want to just have people focus on the phenomenon. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And in a way,
definitely, I can.
Ashley, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say I can definitely speak to that, Greg. And I mean, I have shared a few videos, and I definitely have felt the criticism, and I can totally relate and appreciate the idea of keeping that energy sacred for what it is. And I can relate to a friend of mine, and I'm sure we all know her, from the Netherlands, and she has shot some really incredible videos that she hasn't shared publicly, but she has shared with a few individuals, and she has allowed me to share it on my channel. I do like to share individuals' contact experiences from that perspective to the community that is interested about it. But it was very interesting to see just from her video, which to me is one of really, really powerful video in terms of the maneuvers and what is seen on the video. It was really interesting to see the criticism that came around it and the people that just attacked the video, just really projecting their own insecurities and their own fears around that potentially. So I can totally relate to what you just said.
Yeah.
Greg, and this is definitely something I try to implement as well.
Yes.
That really circles back to the conversation we're having about exposure and, like how much effort do you put into it. And so, like does putting some footage up online, if it exposes you to criticism and that is, and you're just not up for it, then is it worth it?
Yeah, it's because it's the people who actually made the effort to do the field work. It's like, the people who are just looking at it as a doubting Thomas, or they would never do the work themselves. Those are the people that are easiest that criticize the first, the easiest, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Something that
Yeah,
I
that's
think something that I think is also going on is that because I believe that we're communicating with extra-dimensional beings, that I mean, maybe even ETs do have the ability to understand who they are communicating with, and what the person getting the footage would do with it. It does seem interesting that
yes,
a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the most
I agree
fantastic
completely.
footage that people are getting right now are people that are wanting to hold it a little bit closer to the chest right now. So maybe that's just
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
what is
They-
meant to happen at the moment.
It is. I can
yeah.
totally relate to that. I mean, I've had a few experiences where I've had a camera with me, and just the most beautiful ship came in, and I got the feeling of recording it. And as I picked up my camera to record it, it just literally disappeared. And that didn't happen once or 5 times. It happened probably 15 or 20 times.
Yes.
So it definitely
Yeah.
speaks to what you just said, Celia.
Totally. We were trying to get footage when we first started C5, like 6 or 7 years ago, and I had that idea. I was like, I don't think they want to be. I don't think they actually want to be recorded. So we just like totally stopped at all. We're just like, no more footage. We're not about footage. We still didn't get sightings for a few years. We had some coherence work to do and some major
Mm.
learnings to do before we could get that together. But I don't think that anybody watching now, if you're interested and curious, I don't think it's going to take 3 years for you to have a sighting. I think times have changed, and it's just much
Yes,
more accessible and open now. And I actually, in my handbook,
it is.
the handbook that I wrote with Mark and the people in my group is I attest that that probably within 6 sightings. If you're raising your frequency and you're just going out there with a sincere heart and just a strong, clear intention, and then if you add a group in there, then that kind of just amplifies things. Then I think 6 outings is a fair number to say that you'll
Oh,
probably get a
totally.
sighting.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
my number is 3.
Oh yeah,
For a brand someone coming from 0. If they're usually over the line by 3, about a third time.
yep. Yep, absolutely. When
Yeah.
people, we were going out a lot more actively last year, and when people were joining for the first time, many of them would see something the first night. So yeah,
It,
more incentive
it's
for the
Yeah,
people out
that
there.
I definitely relate to that. I had, for example, I had in Mauritius, I think a few months ago, it's one of those occurrences where I was interacting just on a casual evening with people that are not into this at all. And the conversation came about. So I introduced C5 and spoke about it, and obviously got a few raised eyebrows. And so I said, let's go out and let's go have some fun and see what we could experience. And eventually they came over a week or two later, and we went just down by the beach. And I wouldn't say that they came out of the experience saying, yes, we saw a UFO, but they definitely came out of the experience saying, we saw this and we saw that and we saw that, and we had no idea what it is. We looked at all the satellite charts, we looked at everything that it could be, and they're quite scientific minded. I mean, they have a big telescope that they bought as well. But we had a stationary ship for a good 15 to 20 minutes in the same patch of the sky flashing at us.
Yes.
And to this day, they still don't know what that was about.
Yes.
So yes, I think it's becoming easier and easier for all of us to experience that as we grow our frequency and raise our collective energy on the planet.
Yep. Excellent. Very cool. Oh, that's wonderful.
Cool.
We've got
Well said.
a question here from Mark. If you do CE5 on the Global Contact Day in coordination with presumably hundreds or thousands of other contact workers around the world, ... I think the end of that question, I can't see the end of that question, but I think what that question asks is, are the chances of you seeing something better? That's my guess. What do you think, Greg?
Sure. Yeah, we definitely locked into. I believe Costa's. I was in touch with him since 2012, and we are several of. I think the first couple of years of the global CE5 were dovetailing with our events quite nicely, and yeah, when we put the call out at the end of the night to connect to the whole global network, I felt it felt like it definitely added a boost to the meditation or the energy. Let's see. I mean, I think. The answer is sort of yes and no. It depends on the person. If they need that sort of group, that kind of backup, and the assurance that it's a it might make it easier for a lot of people to do it because it's on their calendar as a night that a lot of people are doing it. So it's at an energetic level and also a very practical level at the same time. So yeah, I think it's a great both global endeavors are a great idea. We're hoping to do that more live with like a Zoom. We've done it a couple times with remotely in our JCETI network, and that's been a lot of fun. And people will just go out on their balcony and see something. So we're hoping to do that more in the future.
Cool. Yes. I'll have the second part of the question. I was totally wrong. Okay. So the question is, if you do C5 on Global Contact Day in coordination with a whole bunch of people around the world, might that water down your personal chances of engaging with ET, since the ET visitors need to consider and meet with so many other people? Awesome question.
It's like Santa Claus.
It's a great question.
It's like Santa Claus.
Sounds like the kind of question Mark would worry about.
I think if I had to answer that question, it's a very, very good question. And I definitely sometimes have had that sense where on a global contact evening, I have been alone in the field. And I've had the thought, I mean, there must be thousands of other individuals at the moment doing this. And I mean, how can we all experience the sighting if there are just a few ships? And that was the prerequisite belief, right? That there are just a few ships and that they need to, I mean, it's kind of an idea of believing that there is lack and therefore there's not enough for everybody. But I believe that when we are entering this realm and when we're working with these beings, that abundance is actually a natural state and a prerequisite to everything we do. And so I think that everyone that has the intention and wants to go out and can tune into that collective frequency on that evening will most likely be able to have an experience for themselves. However, I did have a few nights where I was alone, and I spoke to them and I said, look, if there are other individuals around the world that need this more than I do at this stage, I am really, really open to that and very happy to not have any experiences tonight, as long as other individuals that need it, I can also have it. And so I've also been toying with that idea, but essentially I think that abundance, like I said, is a prerequisite, and that there's enough for everybody in that way.
Mm-hmm. Did you see anything that night that you said, I'm okay if you need to go?
Yes, I did.
Okay, you did. There you go. Yeah, very
Yes.
cool.
It's the Santa Claus effect. Don't worry. The craft can go very far in a very short amount of time.
Yep. Time. There's
Yeah.
supposed to be no such thing as time, right? Costa and Hollis. Go ahead. Greg.
Hearing the end of the question there, I wanted to say that maybe more so than the external results, that the global effort is that interconnection is really powerful. So the people doing global C5 definitely share your experiences internally and your visions and your keywords, the synchronicities you're getting, because that will be sure to, I'm sure that we'll be getting crosstalk in a good way, crosstalk between our meditations. And I know a lot of people like James in New York and stuff do the remote C5s or remote meditations. So there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of untapped potential for that as far as sharing and data gathering and whatnot.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's very, very true, Greg. I think I've definitely been experimenting with non-local C5s as well since James introduced that idea into the community. And I've had a few experiences with some friends in South Africa itself. I mean, we're in completely different cities, and we've both had a sighting on the phone whilst we were on the phone out in the field. And we purposely had the intention before that we would both go out at the same time and connect non-locally. And we got on the phone and we both had very similar experiences at the same time. So
that's perfect.
There definitely is a field that's it's definitely there.
James has just typed in the exact same experience. He says, during non-local C5, Kim Klein and I have had simultaneous sightings and back-to-back sightings from New York to, where's FLM? Wow. Florida? Maybe.
Anyways, what's that?
It says sightings from New York to FLM. Oh, I think that was a typo. M is just the add-on. Florida, from New York to Florida. Yeah.
The abundance consciousness is great, though. That's a perfect, such an elegant statement. Actually, there is no lack in this untapped potential. Yeah.
So we're pretty much over an hour, and I'm kind of shooting for an hour for this thing. Could we wrap it up by Do you guys each want to share what you guys are kind of like working on at the moment, or that is upcoming for you that we can look forward to from hearing from you guys, or getting you guys to, or receiving from you guys? Ashley, I know you're working on the, and maybe you've already done a CE5 Academy course. I think that was starting in the beginning of February, right?
Yes, I'm looking at working more with one-on-one individuals this year, in terms of allowing them to expand themselves spiritually, as I think that expanding our energy and our spiritual understanding of who we are and what we're doing here is just such a beautiful way to go into contact and to have the experiences. As I've had a lot of comments on my channel of a lot of individuals really looking for the experience of contact, but somehow cannot achieve it. And I would really love and feel passionate to work with individuals one-on-one to allow them and allow us to learn together and grow together as a community. And outside of that, I am about to become a first-time dad in a few weeks, so I'm very excited about that.
You'll be busy.
Thank you. So I will be quite busy with this for the next few months, but I'll still be doing some videos on my channel. And essentially, my wife and I goal for having moved to Mauritius in the next few years, as I was saying, is to open up a wellness center where we would be able to have contact retreats, international contact retreats, and really anchor the energy of contact in Mauritius, just like it's being anchored all around the world at the moment. So
wonderful.
Very exciting stuff.
So if someone wanted to get in contact with you to do some one-on-one work, how would they get a hold of you the best?
They would be able to email ce5academy@hotmail.com.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Or find us on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. How about you, Greg? What's coming up for you? What are you working on?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening. Let me just show you real quick what we finished last year was the official Japanese Unacknowledged DVD. This was
awesome.
Quite a journey, but the subtitles on Netflix were kind of not up to snuff. So the partner I always work with here and I did that. And we have bonus footage and I interviewed Dr. Greer in person last year. And then this was a 4.5-year journey. James Gilliland's first book, finally out in Japanese, awesome. Ultimate Soul Journey. A lot of struggle with publishers, a lot of struggle with regular publishing. So that I'll be blogging, I'll be plugging about the video. And then this is our series, Uchu Taishi series, the Universal Ambassador. We put these out in 2012. The contact training DVD, the solfeggio CD, and also the meditations, the CTS, and Deb Warren's Dirty Down and Dirty CTS are all in here in Japanese.
Right on.
We're basically going to be doing this one in English. I've had half of it narrated already. This DVD is a simulation I did with a video guy that shows a lot of the major craft appearances in a simulated computer environment, basically After Effects. So yeah, and then I've been shooting some videos for YouTube this last week, so I'll be check our channel at JCETI1 is the YouTube. I'll have much more English content there very soon, and then we have the CE5-Japan CE5-Japan.com is the English site. So it's again balancing the two languages, but yeah, I'm going to the premiere of the film in LA. So that's the day the invite came in, I was in the hot spring bath and I just started thinking, wait a minute, I wasn't planning on going to LA, but maybe that could be a good trip. And I looked up and there was a craft flying over the hot springs.
Awesome. Good sign. Good omen.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put the go ahead. Anything?
A lot
else?
of good stuff coming up.
Yeah, right on. Looking forward to that.
I definitely I'm looking forward to connecting with more folks in Europe. We're going to be doing a retreat in southern France probably in this September. There's a contactee I've been hooked up with as of last year named Julian over there, and also connected with the group in Italy called Damanhur, which is a very long-term running spiritual community near Milan. And we Japanese people love to travel all over the world, so we'd love to head down your way, Ashley. That's keep us updated on your progress.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Thanks, Greg, and all the best to you and your future work. Very exciting stuff.
Thank
you
Thanks.
too,
It was a
Celia.
pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you both
Yeah,
for
great
joining
to
me,
see you in
and
person.
thanks to all the people that joined and put in comments. And if you have any questions and you're watching this as a rebroadcast, then throw it in the comments, and we will attend to it and answer those questions. So thank you guys both so much, and we'll be signing off.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for participating. Yeah,
Bye.
great. Thanks so much. It was awesome today. Thanks to you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. It
Bye-bye.
was really great to